Hello and welcome to Hixxy Studio. On this video I'm going to show you how to make this little art journal note layout. It's one that fits into my little art journal here, and it's the size is for Elizabeth from Elizabeth Crafts range. It's cut with their, I think it's a bubble flowers die, and it fits their large square traveler's notebook. Okay, so I have cut my page from, this is from watercolor card. So yeah, it's nice and textured. It's a little bit inky already, but it's nice and textured for our little page. I'm going to use quite a few different things actually. All Julie Hickey, obviously apart from the inks. So obviously one of the big things I've got there is the Earth Laughs in Flowers, and I've used the Sweet Pea die set, both the uppercase and the lowercase set, to cut that out, and actually didn't need to do more than one pass because there were enough letters for all of that in there. So that's the this sort of saying, if you like. Then I've got a Dinky circle die set, and I've used the flower here, and I've also used that to create a stencil. Have a look here, to ink through onto our background. So that's the Dinky dies. I've also then used a couple of the stamp sets. This is the daisy blooms. Ooh. Oh no, this is the garden blooms. Sorry, this is the garden blooms, and this is the daisy blooms. Oh. Now, I've used, first of all, I've used this lovely stamp. It's tiny, and I think, ugh, what am I going to do with that? Well, I've used that all. Ooh, so many bits of acetate here, all over the background here. So don't sort of ignore those tiny little stamps, because they are really useful for your backgrounds. And then I've also used both of these to stamp on here, so that I have the illusion of, not illusion, I have some foliage for my flowers. The trouble with trying to stamp onto something like this with distressing is it doesn't take very well, which is why I decided not to go with the flowers themselves. So I've just stamped them and then covered up the flowers with the die cuts, but you can still see the foliage there. Okay, so let's get started, and we're going to start by doing our inking. And I have got four inks: Salvage Patina, Cracked Pistachio, I say inks, I've got Oxides, Kitsch Flamingo, and Squeezed Lemonade, to go for that really nice sort of, I don't know, candy type colours. Okay, and I'm going to use my brushes, and I'm going to start bizarrely in the middle, because the way I want this to blend. Now, always think about how you're positioning your colours for blending, because if you put something like a red next to a green, or sort of pink next to a green sort of tone, or even a blue, you're going to end up with quite a sort of a murky colour between them. So that's why I've gone with the pink in the middle. The yellow then merges with that to make sort of an orange, and then outside of the yellow, I put the Cracked Pistachio, the green, because yellow and green, yellow mixes with blue to make green, and then from the green into the blue of the Salvage Patina. So think about the placement of your colours in terms of how they're going to blend together. So I'm just going to, I wish I hadn't put it like that, not to worry. I'm trying not, and it's going to be impossible now for the way I've done it, not to get ink on the back of this, because I might want to journal on the back at some point. But if I do, I do. I think today I'm just going to have to Because what I did at home, when thinking about it, I had it straight like this so that I could keep turning the mat. But now I've put it at an angle and it's hanging off, and oh yay, not to worry. Okay, so because this isn't a smooth card, the ink goes on fine, but it doesn't sort of spread out because you've got the texture as quickly as perhaps it would on a smooth card. Right, so I've got my Kitsch Flamingo down the middle. I'm not going to put that completely away because what I'm going to want to do is to bring that brush back out to blend in the yellow. So I've now got squeezed lemonade, and I'm going to sort of put it not quite up to the pink, but almost. And then same, I'm going to move those inks off so that I can actually turn my board, and we might be able to get away with not getting too much ink on the back here. So I'm putting the squeezed lemonade alongside the pink for the moment, and then I'm going to just sort of slowly, you do get a little bit of well, a little bit, you will get some colour mix on your brush, but that's easily got rid of, and quite honestly I'll be blending other colours in a moment. So that's when I'm going back in with the Kitsch Flamingo now, just to soften that a little bit more, to bring the yellow a little bit further into the pink. You get this kind of nice orange in between without needing an orange ink, but you've already got that kind of nice mix. Okay, so we are then going to get out our cracked pistachio, is the next one that we're going to use. So you'll end up, the other thing I'm going to just grab is a piece of paper, so that when I'm putting my fingers to hold a piece of card, I'm not necessarily getting inky fingerprints all over my all over the actual piece of work. Okay, so I need to load the brush up a little bit more. Definitely need more ink on my brush. This is why I don't often wash my brushes, because then it takes a while to really build up that colour in the bristles, so that you get a really nice sort of application. But that's me personally, how I prefer to work. So I've got my green there. Let's turn it round and get some green on this end too. This cracked pistachio does not want to apply very well. Any minute now, my brush will get to that optimum point, and then I'll be like, I've got too much ink. Good old rub. Okay, and then I'm going to get my squeezed lemonade and just blend that edge into the green, and then blend the green into the yellow, and then do the same the other end. So you get a slightly lighter, more sort of citrusy green where the two are overlapping. Whereas if we'd have put, let's say, the green straight next to the pink, then we'd have had almost a muddy brown sort of where they merged. So last one then, or last colour, is our Salvage Patina. Really nice kind of blue. See the difference, whereas this has already got a fair bit of ink loaded and is going on so much quicker just because there's more ink already loaded into that brush. There we go. And then I'm just going to get the cracked pistachio brush back to merge those a little bit. Oops, let me try not. I haven't done too bad a job of not getting it on the back. Not too bad a job. And then just give that a little bit of a blend there too. Okay, so there is our main background. Now, I have already cut the flowers and I have already cut the letters just because it's a lot of die cutting. But I want to show you what how I got the piece like this to cut them from, and it literally is this. What I wanted something that would tone in, that would match, would have the same color tones, but that was much lighter than the background, so that it would stay out. So another piece of watercolor card and water, and I literally gave my mat a really good spray. And now be careful, because what you don't want to do is get a really muddy mess. So what you might want to do is pick up a bit, and then we might want to put the heat gun on it before we try and add some more, which is what I'm going to do. I'm really liking that so far. So I'm just going to give this a little bit of a blast, so that at least this is set into the watercolor card, the paper, sorry. Before we then put more water on, because if I just kept going over and over that, it would just get muddier and muddier and muddier. And we don't want that. We want these lovely pastel tones that match in with the background that we've already done. It doesn't need to be completely dry, just so that at least some of it is set, and then we can go back in and we can add in a little bit more. I seem to be getting lots of yellow, and I'd like some more pink. Where's the pink? There's some pink. There's some pink. Let it run around a little bit if you want to. You don't. It's one of those ones where you got to know when to stop, and sometimes I don't know when to stop. But I am going to stop there, and I'm going to blow dry it, not blow dry my hair, and the heat set it with the heat gun. Okay, so that is literally what I did. I had a couple of pieces, and I used them to cut the flowers and to cut the letters. Like I said, it gives a lot. I'm loving those kind of like real edges of where the water puddled on this one. Okay, so literally that's what I did. I am going to mop this up with a piece of rice paper. Piece. Mop that up a little bit more. Okay, right, so let me dry. What we're going to do now is add to our background, and I'm just going to give this a little bit of heat set. Don't, if you can leave it to dry naturally, then do, because it won't buckle. This is quite heavyweight watercolor card, so it's kind of designed to take a lot of water anyway. So just a little bit of a heat set there, and you can see hopefully you can see on the camera, the texture, and that's what I wanted, which is why I didn't go for a plain white smooth card, stamping card. Okay, so I have my brushes. I am going to need the inks in my ink pads open again in a minute when I do a bit of stamping, but we're going to grab our stencil. So literally, like I said, this was a bit that I mopped up when I was making the sample and used to cut out some of the flowers, but then I used it as a stencil. So what I'm going to do is just going to use the residual ink that is left on the brushes, and just going to go in and add in some ink. Okay, so on that one it didn't look like we'd done very much, but you can see that we have. So where else are we going to go? Let's go up here a little bit. Okay, we'll go down here. Whoops, move a bit there. There. I might do another one in that yellow there. So I'm not picking up any extra ink on these brushes, but you can see that I am picking up some of the colour from what is already there. So, you know, you will just need to, all I do is I will brush those over on a piece of paper or on my dry rice paper to clean off any sort of mixed colours, if you like. So we're now using our pink, which was our Kitsch Flamingo. Oh. And it does depend where you put it. So if you put it on over the yellow, you're going to get a more orangey tone. I put it on here over the blue, you're going to get a blue, a more purpley tone. Should we put one in the middle? Because that's pink on pink. Where do I put a little edge of one here? Okay. So, I mean, literally this stencil is made. It's a handmade one. It's not one. Let's see what we get if we put that one over there. It does slightly show up, possibly because I've got a little bit of another colour on there. Okay, let's see what we can do if there's any of this cracked pistachio. Ooh, there is a bit there. There. Very much like the blue, so I'm not going to do too much. Let's see if we can get some from the yellow. Ooh, that's going to look nice. There. Let's put a little bit in the corner on there. Let's see what we get going over there. Nice orange, yeah. Okay. So this is just adding some texture. I think we might want a little bit there. Not worried if it's the complete thing. Okay, so that's added our first layer of texture. Put the brushes to one side. And then, remember I said I was going to use just this little die from the Daisy Blooms. And I just want a very small block. Would help if I actually have the stamp set, not just the thing. Just this. It's tiny, tiny wee thing. But we're now going to use that to add on our extra texture or layer. So we're going to try. I always start with the lighter colours. Sometimes they show up. It depends where you put them. So you can see I'm putting that on the green. It's showing up not too bad. But up there, it's kind of gets a bit lost. But that's okay. It doesn't matter. It's still there. It's still adding something to the background. So if you find, like I'm finding, that yes, it's adding a little bit, but it's not adding a huge amount, then move on to your next one. So I'm going to move on to, just going to stamp off any more of the yellow there. I'm going to go on to the pink, and we'll stamp some in pink. And you can see that the pink is showing up really nicely. And I'm stamping more than once. Not showing up at all. You can see it on the, dropped it there, but that's okay. as you probably would expect, not really showing up on that the pink part in the middle. So you can usually sort of work out where's it gonna give you the best effect. And like I say, try and do sort of several generations, because again it adds to the layers. So okay, a bit more actually here. Okay, and then I'm going to go on to the cracked pistachio. You see we're building up these layers. Okay, and you can see that's showing up quite nicely in the middle. So whereas we couldn't get anything to show with the pink, we can now use the green, and we'll be able to use the salvage patina in the middle there as well to add a little bit. Oh, my fingers are starting to get a little bit tired doing this now. It's holding a very small block at a very sort of not what you would normally necessarily hold it. Okay, and then let's just go for some salvage patina. Ink off of that. Ooh. Oh, that's a nice bright one. That even shows up to some extent on itself, if you like. It's nice and bright. Doesn't have to be a pattern, just make it random. Just look now for any gaps that you'd like to fill. Don't worry too much necessarily over that side. That's where I'm going to put the foliage. Okay, so put that layer on, and then we're going to stamp these the larger stamp. Let's start with the daisy blooms. So we're going to use the larger stamp from the daisy blooms, and oh, let's just get that out of the way. I want the cracked pistachio. Okay, so I'm going to ink that up, and I am going to grab my stamping mat. On my platform, just my big foam mat. Just put my inking mat on the top there. Okay, and I can see I just need a bit more down the bottom there. Okie dokie. So we're going to stamp this one under here. Remember, it's the foliage that I'm looking for more than the flowers. And when I take this away, you'll see what I mean by doesn't stamp the greatest. It kind of disappears. It's not stamped really well at all. But I have enough of the foliage there that I can deal with, and that's really what I wanted. I probably needed to push down a little harder. So that's the daisy blooms, but I'm also going to use this one because this has got different foliage on it. This is the garden blooms, so we're going to do the same thing there. I'm probably off camera there, so let me just, I'm inking this up. I'm not bothered about that flower. It's the foliage that I am after. At least a sort of a ghost of an outline of it, which will be enough for me to do my next little bit. So we're just going to stick this one down, and I'm going to give it as good a push as I can. One up there. These ones over here. Okay. Now you're looking at it going, oh my word. That's all a bit there. Okay, let me show you the next step. So I'm going to take my cracked pistachio, let's put a bit onto my plate. Ooh, grab me water. And my brush, where's my brush? The brush brush that I want is here. Okay, so I'm just going to put a little bit of water with this, and I'm looking for where the foliage is. Okay. Now, as you can see over there, it didn't really show much because we're kind of in that similar sort of colour. But you can see here, I'm now bringing out just the foliage. That's what I'm looking for. I'm just looking for the foliage. And I'm going to get a little bit more because I've watered that down quite a bit now. And I would like a darker one to show through. So I'm not bothered if I've obliterated the other bit from the daisies. I've got a bit of foliage coming out here. And I'm just looking for what I can see from either of the stamps. It really is just to kind of give that feeling of there being some foliage associated with the die cut flowers that we're going to put on in a minute. And there's the stem. There's another stem. You'll get different depending on what you're putting it over. And if I'd heat set it, it wouldn't mix quite so much. Remember, what you put on underneath is a water-based product and you're putting water on the top. So you are going to get some kind of pickup from what's underneath. I'm not too worried about that. So I'm just looking in amongst what I've got here to see if I can pick out any more bits of foliage. I tell you what I was possibly a mistake. Can you see I've got the image of a green flower there? And that's what's putting me off at the minute. I'm struggling to see within that where the stamped. And I think that'll do. That gives us the illusion of there being some foliage here on both bits. Okay, I'm just going to move that out of the way in a moment. Rinse off my brush. So, give that a very quick heat blast, purely because otherwise yeah, nothing will stick. We might have a little bit of an issue with this being the ink still being quite damp, but you'll get the idea. You can leave it to dry naturally. All well and good. Look, didn't do too bad about not getting ink on the back, did I? I'm quite pleased with that. Okay, so what we need to do now is, like I said, I've already cut these up because you don't need to see me run all this through the machine. So I've got my flowers. So place your flowers first before you try putting your lettering on, so that you know where you're going. You can see because I cut the flowers out of the scraps, they are, they're all sort of different mottled effects. None of them look exactly the same, which is quite nice. I just get quite a bit of pink and green on this set. Look sort of watercolour, don't they? So you can see I've now got my flowers here, but I've got my foliage. So it looks like they are not just sort of sitting there, that they actually have sort of a stem and some flowers. Right, so lot of lettering. You can, if you want, line it up. Personally, with this quantity of lettering, I wouldn't even try. So I would deliberately go for angling it, which is what we're going to do. So just spelling it all out. And fingers crossed that I've not lost any letters in the meantime. Okay, I might have lost it. Oh no, I've even got the top of the eye, which is good. This is when I start spelling out loud. I do apologise. L-A U E H S, and then flowers. Like I said, this I really do like this. It's a lovely font, this Sweet Pea alphabet. But I think it's great that I was able to cut this entire phrase out with just one pass, because there are enough dies. I think we need to come across a little bit. So, and this is why I would always place your letters before you stick them down, just so you know you've got your spacing right. Right, there we go. So now it's just a case of sticking. So I need my tweezers. Okay. So while I'm doing this, so you've seen the Dinky circles, from which is what the flower came from, and you've seen, ooh, so I'm just shooting my little flowers everywhere. You've seen the garden blooms and the daisy blooms. Have a look. Oh, I'll lose those if I'm not careful. Have a look on the YouTube channel, the Hixxystudio YouTube channel. There are a couple. Oh, there will be a couple of projects using daisy blooms, a couple using the garden blooms, and a couple of those also use the Dinky circles. But I've got one other that uses the Dinky circles sort of in all its glory. So be sure to have a look at those. Now, I said to you, didn't I, that this was not going to stick particularly well, and it isn't. And that's because of the dampness of the paper. It looks dry, but it's not completely. And so when you're trying to put glue onto a wet surface, it's not really going to want to adhere. But we're going to put them all down, and then I'm going to give it a good old press as a whole to push those on down. So I've used, like I said, I've used watercolor card because I wanted the texture. But I think it adds into the whole feel of it. But you could equally use your white stamping card. You could use mixed media paper. There's some of that, I think, on the website, Faber-Castell mixed media paper, which I also use in my journals. Yeah, I mean, and if you use, I mean, with the oxides, depending on, I'm just going to put a dot for that. Depending on what colours you choose, you can do it on darker card too, because the good thing about the oxides is they are fairly opaque. They are different to the distress inks. Just distress inks are that they are water-based inks, and sort of if you try to put them onto a dark card, you can't see them because they are fairly translucent. But the oxides are a combination ink, hybrid, I suppose, of a pigment and a dye-based ink. So it gives them a more opaque, chalky finish, which will go on top of, well, not only will it go on top of darker card, but if you heat set in between, it layers really nice on itself, if that makes sense. Whereas, you know, you try to layer some distress colours, they just you wouldn't see what you were trying to add on. Okay, I'm going to move the flowers off because I know where they're going, and I'm going to grab a piece of copy paper and I'm going to just lie that on top, and I'm going to just give this a really good press down, and hopefully most of it then will adhere. Like I say, as it dries, it will be fine. There you go, that's better. Okay, for the flowers, I'm going to use 3D glue gel, which is all a bit gunked up, but hey ho. Let's see. I've had a nice little arrangement till I ruined it, didn't I? Let's go with that one on the back. That one there. Oh yeah, let's do it that way. So, let's go this one first, and there, and there, and that one there. You can't really see where I stamped the flowers, but you can see the foliage. I was going to put that one in the middle. I'm going to put that across. And that one. And there. And then I'm just going to put a little bit of the glue gel in the middle, where I'm going to see that one needs to push it down a little bit. Ooh, butterfingers. We're going to put, I'm not sure these will pick up with this, they're a bit big. Do it with tweezers. Will they go? Can I pick them up with tweezers? Yes. I can pick it up, can't put it down. Okay, there's one. The other's these. Just on one of those long rolls of lovely pearl. I do like pearl. It's like, oh, use your fingers, it's easier. So I cut them up individually to use as fast. Now that one does need a good old squish down, because obviously I want to put this in my journal, and while my journal will take some depth, I don't really want it too deep. Okay. I'll just grab the other one on my journal just to show you how it will sit in. Yeah, so it literally would just fit in there like so, and then my journal closes quite nicely. So that's just to show that, you know, all these stamps that you buy and the dies, they don't just need to be for cards. If you're into your journaling, they're just as useful. If I was to do a journal with just a stamp like this, then I would definitely decoupage it. So I would stamp perhaps the foliage like I've done now, and then cut this out and stick it in, because it will then stand out a lot more. Okay, so just a very quick recap. So we used the daisy bloom stamps. We used the big stamp to help us with the foliage, and then we used this tiny weeny little worker stamp there to help us with our background. We used the garden blooms again. That was for our foliage for the page, and we used the Dinky circles dies for our flowers, but also we then used that to create a stencil, and then our lettering is the Sweet Pea alphabet die set. And they have a lovely, bright and cheerful journal page. Thank you for joining me.